Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Mom on the Verge podcast, where I aim to help you improve your sense of joy, purpose, and meaning in this life. We will talk about a lot of different ways we can do this, but ultimately, we'll be working toward finding our way back home to ourselves and remembering that even in the most challenging times, peace is only a breath away. I am your host, Katie Farinas, a mom, nurse, and yogi on a mission to improve mental health and build community in our world. Hi, everyone. I have another wonderful episode for you today. Today, I have Allison Sutter, and Allison considers herself to be a spiritual teacher of spiritual teachers. So she works with women who are drawn to all these spiritual concepts, to personal development. And they have tons of knowledge about these things, and yet they're still struggling to implement them in their real lives, in their everyday lives. They feel like they just can't quite put it all together and make the puzzle pieces fit. And so she works with them as a spiritual mentor and an intuitive channel. And this work came out of her own experience of a dark night of the soul experience. And if you're not sure what that is, I have a whole episode on that I will link in the show notes. But she had a very difficult period in her life. She was taking tons of trainings and courses to try to shake off her fear and be able to step into a life that really felt good for her. She was struggling with anxiety, social anxiety, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and she really just was seeking answers, but she was seeking them outside of herself. She felt at the time that these people that she was taking these courses from really had the answers, and all she needed to do was take the next course, and she would finally be free, and she would finally have the answers. But she eventually realized that really all of the answers come from within, which is obviously something that we talk a lot about on this show. And that the only thing that allowed her to move past her struggles was focusing inward and getting in touch with that intuition and her spiritual side. And she's amazing. We talked a lot about manifestation, actually, which was not the original plan of this conversation, but that's where it went. And I always allow our conversations to go where they go. But there's also so much more than that as well. Allison has written multiple books. She has a signature program called Accelerate Your Mojo. And I will link all of her stuff, of course, in the show notes for you to check out. But it's a really interesting conversation. She definitely has a way of putting things that really helps you to understand some of these difficult concepts. This show was actually recorded quite a while ago, and sometimes when that happens, I have to go back and re-listen to the episode so I know what I'm releasing to you guys if it's been a really long time. And so I re-listened, and I just even enjoyed the conversation more the second time around. I got more out of it the second time around. As with a lot of these difficult concepts, sometimes a second listen is really needed. And I don't just do that with my own show. I do that with other podcasts I listen to. So it's like a book or a movie. If you've ever watched a movie more than once or read a book more than once, you realize that the second and third and fourth time around, there's so much more detail and depth that you get out of it. So this is one of those episodes that it might be worth a second listen because some of the stuff we talk about is outside the box of what you may have heard before. Another thing she talks about in this episode is expansion versus contraction. So she talks about, how do we know if we really want something? Because often when we really desire something, it is very closely linked to a fear, right? A fear of being seen, a fear of being enough, of imposter syndrome, these types of things. And so sometimes we don't know if we really want something, or if we if we want it and yet the fear is standing in our way, or if maybe we actually really just don't want it, and how can we tell the difference? And she talked about that sensation of expansion versus contraction, which is another episode that I did. So we don't go into a lot of detail about what that is and what that feels like in this episode. So I will also link that episode in the show notes for you guys to take a listen to. So I hope you enjoy. I did want to remind you that everything has been switched over for me. So if you're looking for me, it is my name everywhere. So katiefarinas.com is my website. Katie.Farinas is Instagram. My YouTube channel is Katie Farinas. My Pinterest, my LinkedIn. It's all Katie Farinas, and my email is katie@katiefarinas.com. So if you're looking for me anywhere, just use my name and you will find me. And we are so close to the new name and cover art coming out for the podcast. So do expect that within, I'm going to say within the month. I'm hoping within the month of February. But you know how these things go. So, but keep on the lookout. And like I mentioned, if you're already subscribed to Mom on the Verge, the new show with its, its new title and art and all that will just automatically pop up, just like every new episode you get of Mom on the Verge. It will just show up. The same is true. This will just keep showing up for you. If you are not, if you have to search me every time you want to listen to an episode, then you will have to find me under the new name, which I have not released yet. So I highly suggest that you just subscribe to the show now. That way you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to search for anything. You're subscribed. It will automatically shift over for you and you have to do nothing. I also want to remind you about my 3 journal prompts for discovering your Dharma. This is free. You can download it. It can really start you on this journey of finding your purpose and how you want to express that purpose at this particular point in your life. And I also have a workbook. The workbook's a little bit more detailed, 5 steps to discovering your Dharma. So I will link both of those in the show notes as well. The journal prompt is also available on my website. The other one I will link, or you can message me in some way and I can send it to you. And then I wanted to remind you also to sign up for my newsletter. And lastly, if you could please, rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show to grow and to get to more people. So I would really appreciate if you could do that. And then I suppose the one last thing is if you are, feeling like you want more purpose in your life, you want to be more closely connected to who you are authentically, to your intuition, to your higher self, to that part of you who creates the magic, the love, the awe, the feelings of joy and inner peace. If you are really searching for that in your life, then book a discovery call and let's talk, because that's what I do. I help women who have kind of gone off course in their lives and forgotten who they are, what they want, and what creates meaning in their life for them, to find themselves again and to find that meaning and to find that magic and to find that peace. So if you were sick of feeling stuck and feeling lost and feeling like life is just, a never-ending to-do list that has lost its sense of magic, please, let's have a chat. I have so many different coaching options, and they are at different price points and require different amounts of your time. And I really think that everyone can find something that fits them and their life and their budget. And it's so worth it to invest in yourself. You are worth it. And this is a gift that you give yourself, yes, but it deeply impacts your children, your family, your friends, and the world. So you are not only giving this gift to yourself, you are giving it to others. All right, on to the show. I hope you enjoy it. And as usual, I will chat with you at the end. Hi, Allison. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It is so nice to have you. And I'm really excited for this conversation because it seems like you have a lot of different areas of expertise or a lot of knowledge in different areas that I think my audience is really going to resonate with. So I'm excited for this conversation. And also because when I was looking through your website and, getting to know you a little bit, I feel like you and I really align in a lot of areas. And so it's just always really fun and exciting to have a conversation with someone who, has similar interests and really is excited by all of this spirituality, personal development stuff that for me personally, I could spend all day, every day doing nothing but, reading, listening, experimenting, playing with all of this stuff. So, and it sounds like you're that type of person as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So tell us what you do, and then tell us, how you came to do what you do and why you think it's important. I mean, you're an entrepreneur as a coach, and that's not always an easy path. And so you have to be really passionate about what you do. So tell us about that.
Well, actually, I refer to myself as a teacher and a mentor because that's what I am by trade. I have a master's degree in administration and education. I was teaching for a long time in school. And so basically there's a whole middle section of my life where I stayed home with the kids and I was looking for other things to do, stumbled into working with somebody who was high up in personal development, learned a bunch of lessons, spent way too much money. It's a very common story, getting pulled into this narrative of working with somebody because they have a name. And, hit the dark night of the soul, really.
Yeah.
And from there, I was at the bottom and I'm like, well, what do I have left? I literally have no money. Like I learned a bunch of things, but what did I really learn? So I was like, I have my intuition, I have my authenticity, and I have my ability to transform fear. Those are things that I can rely on, that are mine, and I can do what I want with them.
Yeah.
So that's when I went in and I took what I learned as an educator and how to craft a program. And I literally was writing several programs that then garnered there's more than 5,000 students who've gone through those. They're self-guided programs with the premise of independence, not dependence. There's so many programs that are dependence based or upsell based. I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
So I spent years writing programs and I started writing books. And then I was like, I took those three principles of intuition, authenticity, and transforming fear. And I wrote the book and the program, Accelerate Your Mojo. And what I wanted people to take away was that you don't have to rely on anyone else, that you can rely on your intuition and your authenticity. And that's enough. You don't have to keep reaching for other people to tell you what to do. This is enough. Yeah. So that's really what I want to give people and gift people, is this awareness that while there are lots of people who know lots of things, you know what's right for you. Yeah. Which is the opposite of standardized education. And I figured what I figured out was that in self-help, it was a lot of standardized personal development. It was really taking the script from standardized education, filling in a bunch of different words, but the end result was still, you need to do what I tell you to do or you're not going to be successful. I'm like, that's a bunch of hooey.
Yeah.
How do I do the opposite of that? So that's what I tried to do.
Okay. I love that. And it's funny that you related to standardized education, because this has been a topic in the last year or so that I've become really passionate about, because I actually have a show on it. I haven't released it yet, but I have it's banked. It'll be coming out if you're, the audience is listening and you're interested in this topic. But how we really do train intuition out of people. I mean, that's basically what we do in school, is in life, kind of in general, we train it out of people. And not that it's not always there. I believe that it is always there, but we start losing our ability to pay attention to it and hear it and listen and follow it, because all these other things in our life are so much louder and get our attention, and we are shooting ourselves to death. So how do you get people, and this is a big thing for people, how do you get people to quiet all that outside noise and go back to the intuition, which is often, more subtle and quieter?
Well, it takes time. It takes time and practice and dedication. It doesn't happen overnight.
Mhm.
But if a person is interested in, finding that inner voice and really tuning into it and leaning on it more than the voice that says you should be doing something else, you should set bigger goals, you should have bigger accomplishments, you should be doing more, then you really have to begin to have conversations that lean on how intuition is your guiding mechanism. First thing I do is have people define it. What
Mhm.
is your definition? Because our definitions are not the same, I guarantee it.
Mhm.
They're different. And then when you understand what your definition is, you got to sort of dive into the pool of what beliefs are and really understand how fundamental to constructing your reality and your point of view beliefs are. You
Mhm.
have to, like, I've been doing this investigation for more than 10 years, almost like 15 years now. And
Mhm.
I'm still learning and I'm still
Yeah.
revealing to myself. And I still get caught in the trap of outside stimuli, the
Mhm.
intoxication of what other people are doing and comparing. And there
Mhm.
isn't one ripcord you can pull and you're done.
Right.
It's a process, and you
Yeah.
gotta, it's unfolding until we transition back to fully non-physical. It's something that, you just keep revealing to yourself and trusting yourself more and
Mhm.
having different experiences, and you got to know that it's going to go on until you transition back. It just will.
Right.
It's part of our physical POV.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And it's a journey. This whole thing's a journey. It's all, keep coming back. Like I keep coming back to the center is what I always feel like it is for me personally. Like I kind of get pulled off center and then there's this moment of waking up and realizing that's what happened and then returning back. And then I, travel a little bit further on the journey and then, oh, I just got pulled off center again. I woke up and I come back again. And every time there's a moment where I'm like, why don't you get this yet? Like where, why, why does
Yeah,
this still keep happening? But I think you're right. I think it's just the human condition. Like it's not,
it
maybe there
isn't a
are
fault.
some enlightened beings out there that never get pulled off center. But I think for
Yeah.
99.999% of the population, it is just the journey. And the beauty is waking up and realizing and then coming back and then taking whatever lessons you learned from when you got pulled off the path to coming back
Yeah,
again.
and catching yourself when you find yourself going, why do I keep doing this? Like giving yourself, a slap because you think you've done something wrong, because that's the implication of that question. Aren't I smart enough? Can I get a hold of this? Why do I keep doing this?
Yeah.
If you can catch yourself when you're saying that, and then also remind yourself, oh, wait, there is no end to this. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to be doing, is falling out of myself and coming back to find myself. And that's the journey of being a spirit, having a physical perspective for the short duration of time that we have it. That's
Yeah.
it. That's what
Yeah.
I'm doing here.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have something? I mean, were you always really spiritually connected, or did you have some sort of experience that brought you to this? Like, how did you end up here?
It's interesting. It's not until you look sort of through, your own personal experience that you realize what kinds of spiritual intuitive experiences you've had through your life. I've had multiple, and I talk about them in my book, my newest book, The Halfway is a Guidebook to Strengthening Your Intuitive Connection. I talk about how I came to build my own strength around trusting my intuition. And part of it is in the chapter called Connecting the Dots, is you kind of have to go back and go to those experiences where oh yes, this was an intuitive experience, or yes, this
Mm-hmm.
was a spiritual, connected experience that I had. And the more you can sort of string that necklace, the stronger and the bigger it gets. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm building my own belief in self. I've had multiple, as of you, as of the listeners. Like nobody's sterile in this department. We've all had these experiences. It's whether do we recognize it? Are we defining it as such? Right? Are we
Mm-hmm.
defining it as such? Or are we going, oh, that was just weird, right?
Right,
Like that
right,
was
right.
nothing. Like, how are you defining your moments of intuitive clarity or spiritual connection?
Yeah.
I've everything from standing in a room just knowing something is the way it's supposed to be, to when my mom was transitioning. I was 20, she was 53, she had cancer. um, she transitioned, and literally seconds after that, I had some conversation with her energetically. And I knew for myself, I knew that the spiritual realm was not negative in the way that we look at it through the physical perspective. I just knew it.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything with it. I was 20, right?
Right.
I was like, I just need to survive this. But it was a knowing I put it in my pocket so I could pull it out later and bolster my own sense of connection, trust myself more, and then use it as sort of a pinnacle teaching moment as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I totally agree with you. I mean, I remember as a child being very close to source, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but there was just this ever-present presence around me that I felt and would hear and counted as like a friend or a loving being. And I took it for granted. I was a child. That's just kind of like what I knew, all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got older and enculturated, I guess, and all the noise started getting louder in my life, I really lost that connection. I really just felt severed from it. I just couldn't feel it anymore. But then there were these little moments, like you're talking about, these little moments that would bring me back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly in nature was, when I would have particular experiences in nature. My husband and I were big backpackers, and I would have experiences in nature that would bring that same feeling and sense back to me. When I do things, so I'm a Dharma coach, that's what I do. And so when I was doing things that were on my Dharma, even though I didn't realize that's what it was, I would have those experiences. And now as I look back through my life, I can, like you're saying, connect the dots. And I think, in my coaching, it's the same thing. I do the same thing with my clients. I'm like, because they'll come in and they'll say, I don't know what my purpose is. I have no idea. And I'm like, yes, you do. You just have to clear away the clutter, and you're going to see how it's been there all along. But there's just like a lot of other crap in the way that you just can't see it. So
Yeah. There's a formula. Oh, I just pulled my glasses off. That was weird. There's a formula too that I can give you that for those that I give my clients to that are confused. And the formula goes like this. And you learned it in kindergarten. I teach kindergarten as well now. Or I'm in a Montessori school, K through 6, and or 3 through 6, sorry. And if you look back on the kindergarten years, this makes complete and utter sense. So it goes like this. It goes, follow your highest level of excitement from the choices that you have before you in any given moment. Take it as far as you can take it. You can't take any farther. And don't demand or make assumptions on what that passion or initial excitement is supposed to be, and stay in a positive mindset no matter what. You give any kid, you sort of put them into a room, let's just say kindergarten, they're going to follow this, right? They're going to go to the most exciting thing that they can do. They're going to do it as long as they can do it. They're not going to demand that the Legos become, the chalkboard. They literally just flow through this. They don't make assumptions, demands about friendships, that you're supposed to be my best friend for life. The kid doesn't end up being their friend or whatever. And for the most part, they stay in a positive mindset no matter what. They bounce back pretty quickly. Yeah. But if you can this is a formula that you can take through the rest of your life. And if you can adhere to it to a certain degree, you will find that you're always coming back to center, and that things are being revealed to you about what your passion, whether you call it Dharma passion, life focus, whatever you want to call it, that you're always being guided towards this by synchronicities, by conversations, by ideas that you're having. It is a fail-safe formula to keep you moving in the direction that your soul wants to move into.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But the question that I have for you that I'm sure you've gotten before is, as we enter adulthood, there's so much we have to do, right? There's so much we have to do that we would prefer not to do, right?
Yeah.
There's so many responsibilities of, if you have kids and raising a family and paying the bills and going to work, and maybe work is not, your passion. So how do you encourage people to do that, to keep moving towards the things that really excite them and stay in that positive mindset? Well,
the thing is, with that kind of concept of passion, people usually go directly to, my big passion, my, major thing I'm supposed to do in life. I'm not talking about that necessarily. That may be incorporated in this. It can be incorporated in this, but I'm talking about literally, do you clean the toilet or do you go sit on the couch? Like, what is your high? If you follow this like it's a river guiding you towards what you need to be, that's going to give you the greatest joy in life, you will get there. But you can't always hang your hat on, I don't know how I'm going to change the world. Like, don't worry about that right now. The little things guide you to what you perceive to be the bigger things. I do this all day, every day. Sure, I go to work. Yes. But then in the moments where I do have the choice, I'm always asking myself, like I did it for dinner. What is the most exciting thing you can have for dinner? Okay, go get it and do it. Take it as far as you can take it. So you can't take any farther. And I'm not going to demand it's the best meal I've ever cooked. Like, I'm just going to cook it. And I'm going to know that it is adding, energetic sparks to this bigger thing, this thing that I have said, this is the big thing I need to do, right? It's adding to that. And I don't need to know how, and I don't need to know, I don't have to have all of those sort of energetic intricacies that the physical realm can't perceive. I just have to trust that every single time I do that, I am moving in the direction that I should be moving into, big and small.
Yeah. So recently, in the past, I guess 6 months or so, I've been diving more deeply into manifestation, which is not something that I've done a lot of work around. But when I'm listening to you talk, that's what you're reminding me of, because all that I'm learning about manifestation is about staying in the energetic of the thing that you want, whether it be the really big thing you want or something smaller that you want. But if you want something to show up into your life, that you need to try or keep coming back to the energy of that thing that you want. So is that sort of similar to what you're talking about?
Yeah, but I also want to demystify this concept of manifestation. You and I are manifesting right now. Like, manifestation isn't a big magical thing that happens once or twice in your life. It's literally, this is what we do as non-physical consciousness, creating a physical reality. Everything is manifestation. You don't need to take a course on manifesting, listeners. You already are manifesting. So just begin to observe what it is you are manifesting. There's going to be things that you prefer, and there's going to be things that you don't prefer. You are never going to exit that loop, I'm telling you right now, because the physical perspective is one of limitation. Your non-physical consciousness had to put parameters or limits on itself in order to have a physical experience. By default, you are going to experience what you prefer and what you don't prefer. Use it as a vehicle that you are manifesting both of these things to get clarity on what you want. Don't use it for a sense of victimization, which is what most people do. They go, oh, look at what happened to me. It's proof. I'm never going to get what I want, right? They look to that thing that they call negative or contrasting, and they immediately invoke a negative belief about self, worthlessness. I don't know how, like, we begin to like separate these things out. Like, if you understand this is a hamster wheel we're all on until we exit and become fully spiritual perspective, you're going to manifest things to give yourself clarity about what you do and don't want. So you've been manifesting, spirits manifest, right? They just manifest on a different level than the physicality that we're experiencing right now. So everything that you've been doing since you decided to have a physical experience is manifestation. You understood that there would be contrast. You understood that there would be diversity of thought, of emotion, of physical experience. Like, you understood that on a spiritual level, and you went, yay, I get to do this. So I kind of get it, like, I don't know, annoyed is the right word, because I worked with a guy who was all about manifesting. He was actually in the movie The Secret. And I was like, it became his talking point, so to speak. It's like, oh, well, learn how to manifest. You already know how to manifest. You don't need to learn. You just want to slow down your thought process a little bit, get in touch with your beliefs, switch out the ones that you don't like as much as the other ones. And understand that when you, because you're manifesting thoughts as well as, you know, tangible stuff as well. So just kind of know that it's a process and get comfortable knowing there are bumps in the road, and, you know, stop beating up on yourself so much, because this is what you signed up for, right?
Yeah.
You are manifesting all the time. Even when you're dreaming, you're manifesting. So it's, we all do it, and we all are trying to figure it out together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, from what I've learned, that what you're saying is so true. Like, we are all manifesting, we are all manifesting all the time. But if things keep showing up in your life that are contrasts that you would not prefer, that you perceive as not good, then you may need to be switching your beliefs or your thoughts to shift your energy so that the things that you would prefer or you would like start showing up in your life. That is my understanding. And that's really hard, you know, because we're on autopilot a lot in our heads.
Well, those are all beliefs too. That's hard. We're on autopilot. Like everything we do is a belief. It's just a matter of which ones we're incorporating in the moment. And one of the things that I think that I encourage my own clients to do is to try to sit with the thing that keeps coming up that they're not preferring, and ask yourself, what do I need to believe true? What do I need to believe is true about myself to feel the way I do in this situation right now? That's going to expose the belief, because the beliefs are literally the architecture of our physical orchestration. Like that's when I talk about energy and belief systems, I often use the analogy of a Play-Doh machine. Like if you stick the blob of Play-Doh in the top, and on the end you've got a filter, and it's either a circle or a square or straws or whatever it is. Our non-physical consciousness is like that blob. The filter on the end is our belief system. If you've got a square, you're not going to get a circle, right? So just tell yourself, I got a square. Today I got a square. All right. So what do I need to believe is true about myself to feel the way I do about this situation? Well, I don't feel like I'm good enough. Okay, great. That's how I feel. That's not how I want to, you know, or relationships never work out for me, or I never make enough money, or whatever the, you know, belief is that you're filtering your conscious through at the time. Look at it, because the thing that happens with negative beliefs in particular is they often intensify right as you're kind of getting the puzzle down, right as you're figuring it out, right as you're willing to let it go. You know, it intensifies because it's an energy of itself, and it kind of wants to stay relevant, right? So if there's an intensification of the energy, you got to face it. When you can, right? You got to be willing to sit and say, what's going on here? Okay, the reason I can feel this way is because I don't think that's going to work out. I really just don't have faith. Okay, well, let's just work through that a little bit, you know? And the thing is, if that's the belief, you're going to see you're going to see the evidence of it, right? Because that's what we do. That's we verify the belief system with our point of view. So you got to begin to just take almost like a third person POV of your experience of itself, and begin to look at yourself from the mountaintop and be like, oh, look what I'm doing. All right, I can change that. I don't really want that anymore. I'm going to have to look at the beliefs that are coming up for me that are fostering this kind of episodic kind of experience. And the other thing too with beliefs is you don't need to change a negative belief. You can leave it right where it is, because everything that ever exists has always existed. It's going to exist. You can go back to that belief if you want to, but you don't need to put an effort to change it. Just switch to something else. Just keep moving. Your reality will show you what your vibration is. It's showing us right now, all day, every day. You know, if you don't want that anymore, you have to be like, all right, I don't want that. And I know that I'm the creator of my Seth. Have you ever read the Seth series? Jane Roberts?
No.
Those books are amazing. I started with those books. And Seth talked about, he was an energy consciousness personality construct that came through Jane Roberts in the 60s and 70s. And Seth said, you create your own reality. And I was hooked after that. I was like, this is the best thing ever. So I had to spend time, you know, reading books and having conversations and having my own channeling experiences and spirit experiences to figure out, oh, we're actually, so this, I'll tell you this, and this, I don't know if your audience is going to, you know, be able to take this idea and use it, but I think it's the coolest idea ever. So, you know, how people talk about that you're like a soul, and people talk about it like the soul comes in your body and then leaves your body when you die. And it's like your soul and body are separate. And there's all of these things happening with these two kinds of constructs. But if you look at your soul as a sphere, as a body of light, and inside of that body of light is your physical experience. What your physical experience is the intensification of a point of energy, a vibration that densifies to the point where it creates an experience of physicality. So you are never without your soul. Your soul experience is guiding you. Your higher self is your soul. Like and I look at that as I'm going about my day. I'm like, okay, so it's sort of like the what was that movie with Jim Carrey where he lived in the bubble?
Oh, I was never a huge Jim Carrey fan. So
anyway, so he lives in this bubble and people are watching him from above. But if you think of there's a sphere in Las Vegas now, isn't there, where the projection of the show is on the sphere above you. It's a 360 experience, right? So you're in the middle of the bubble. You're projecting your experience of reality on the inner surface of this bubble. That's our life, right?
Like an IMAX theater. That's what I think of when you're saying that. Yeah.
So that's the manifestation, right? That's what I'm creating. And so you have to figure out from the reflection why I'm creating what I'm creating. And when I gave you the formula and I said, stay in a positive mindset no matter what, that's the hardest thing for people to do, is shift and adhere to that, because everything is positive and negative and neutral. You can take a positive, a negative, or a neutral from every single, which seems odd, I know, every single situation that you witness and partake in life. So if something's happening, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't want this, why does this keep happening to me, which is a victim statement. Why is the world coming to me in this way? You got to shift your POV. Why would I create a world in which I'm experiencing this? What does my soul want to learn? And if everything's positive and negative and neutral, there's some available shifting of POV that I can take when I'm ready. And I will understand more about my journey by using that psychic flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, that's really good. I think our listeners can get a lot out of that. And I have not found it particularly easy to do. So, when I started learning about this stuff, and I'm just kind of learning the same thing, but from a different perspective, I guess. Like what I had learned previously all kind of fits and aligns with this, but it's a somewhat different perspective. And I catch myself often in a thought pattern that is not helpful for attaining the thing that I want. Okay, so if I'm trying to manifest something in particular, I find myself in this thought pattern, I see it, right? I get the drone view, I call it the drone view. And I'm like, oh, well, that thought pattern is definitely not going to help me to move towards this thing that I prefer. And then I try to shift it. And then I wind up going back and I see it again. I did it again. I'm back in that same thought pattern. Okay, that's not helpful. I try to shift, and over and over and over this process happens. But it's like a rewiring of the brain to try to live more consistently. No one's ever going to be perfect, but to live more consistently in the pattern of thought that would give you the life that you would like to create on that screen.
Yeah, and thoughts are a reflection of vibration. So people are like, what is vibration? I don't get it. What does it mean? Literally, you can understand your vibrational tonality, I guess, by paying attention to how you feel and what kinds of thoughts are floating through your head. That gives you, and don't punish yourself. Don't feel guilt. Don't feel remorse. Don't feel like you're a bad person. Don't feel like you're never going to, do better than you're not doing now. Use it in an observation kind of approach. There's the one way you kind of get out of feeling like there's guilt or shame or I'm not good enough, I'm never going to get this. Like, if you just look at it from a sense of neutral observation, the best that you can, knowing that all of these pieces of the puzzle are just giving you information. And honestly, we're infinite beings. Like, we're going to do this for as long as we want to need to, because we thought it was fun. We thought this would be a really good idea to go into some place that had a lot of contrast,
right,
and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is helpful to think about, well, first of all, the first thing that you mentioned is, self-compassion. What I think when I hear you say, like, don't beat yourself up about it, like that's self-compassion, which is, again, something that people need to work on. I think a lot of times people are really hard on themselves. And they'll be so kind and gentle with their child or their friend or whoever they love in their life. And then when it comes to them, they're just like beating themselves up about whatever they did or said or thought or how they behaved or whatever the case may be. So self-compassion sounds like it's a huge factor here. And then also just like being patient, right? So we're talking about play, really. What you're saying is play. Like we're playing here. We're playing in this Earth school. We are trying all these different things out. We're seeing what's contrast, what we prefer, what we don't prefer, and take it a little more lightheartedly and like look at it as a grand experiment and a grand like playground. But when you really want something and it's not coming to you, it doesn't feel like play. So it's trying to remain in that playful, energetic, and in that playful mindset.
It is, and it's practice. Like right now, I had an idea for a fiction book, and I was so excited. I've been playing with the idea of writing a fiction book for years. So I'm playing with this idea, and I've been waiting on it. And I've been waiting because I understand that I feel an idea before I think of an idea. Like if it feels a certain way, that's my indication that my intuition's going, yeah, follow this. Like don't just go with it. But I feel myself going, ooh, this be so cool as a Netflix show, right? Like, and you find your wanting expanding and your desire expanding, and then you're like, but I'm not writing anything on the paper, like, and then you're going between these two things, and then you're like, wait a second, I have got all the time in the world. There is no rush. You just got to bring yourself back. This is what I do for myself. I'm like, there are things that I trust. I trust in the concept of synchronicity, and synchronicity is a force that works all the time. There's positive and negative synchronicity. Negative is not you're going the wrong way. It's just hold on, go in another direction for now. So I trust that these are things that are at play in our universe. And because I trust, it brings me a sense of inner peace. Authentic, not fake. I'm not giving it lip service. Like there's an actual sense of inner peace with the pacing of something, like writing a fiction book, which could take me 3 years. I don't know. And I started to get anxious because I'm going through story structure and learning all of these things about, how to story beats. And I'm getting a little frustrated because I don't have this, so anyway, you get the point. It's like, you feel yourself go, but then you got to go, okay, what do I know to be true? I can literally create a wonderful experience. And that's really kind of what I'm going for. It's just a wonderful reader experience that I can achieve. Like, I don't need a Netflix series.
Right.
I just want to create a wonderful, so you got to play with your threshold of believability as well and get yourself in the zone, not go so far out that you're fishing for something that feels like a super stretch for you. You got to come back to the place that you can sort of corral and play with.
Yeah, that's because you enter the state of overwhelm. Like what you're talking about is overwhelm. And then that's when we were like, we can't do it. I can't do it. Like it's too much. It's too much. Like I'm not capable of that. Instead of like, yes, dialing it back. I was talking to a friend of mine and about manifestation, and she's really into it as well. And she was like, you have to say that you're going to make $500,000 this year. And I said, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And so I need to stick with something that genuinely in my body and in my soul feels truly right and authentic to me. And like, once I achieve whatever that thing is, maybe I will take it further. Maybe I will feel like, actually, now that I've done this, now I feel I can do this. I can move the goalpost, so to speak. But I can't just put something completely out there that my soul is like, no.
No. It causes more damage than good when you're trying to force yourself to believe something you don't believe. And that brings me back to the formula when I say, don't demand or put assumptions on something, that something specific has to happen. And that counters a lot of what people are taught in personal development. They're taught to set that goal and make that vision and write that statement and go at it hard. It's like, I'm like, well, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
You know, it usually causes a lot of consternation and a lot of angst and a lot of fear. But if you understand, and again, like, you know what you understand and believe by how you feel. And if you understand that you will get the experiences that are highly beneficial for your both physical and spiritual development, you don't need to worry. You don't need to put a demand like, I have to be a six-figure earner in a month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do that because it sounds good as physical beings. We like the idea of making a lot of money, but that is not the only form of abundance. That is one form of abundance.
Yeah.
But people like to make that judgment call and say, oh, if you make a lot of money, you're worthy. If you make a lot of money, you're whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have the experiences that are going to cause me the most amount of growth as a physical and spiritual being. I do not need to put that label on it. Now, if the label is truly exciting, then put the label, right? I did a course on visualization years ago, and someone just asked me a question about this in the course, and it was talking about, like, because there's a misunderstanding about what visualization is for. People think visualization is for the purpose of manifesting something. Like you said, like, if I can see it, I can be it, right? I got to see that thing. And if I can see that thing, well, that's the thing that's going to come into my experience. That's not actually accurate. The purpose of the visualization faculty is to get you into a specific frequency. So if you're thinking about something and it's truly joyful, or you're truly curious, or you're truly like just some expansive feeling when you're holding a mental projection of something, then you're using the faculty to its greatest benefit. But it's not, that's not the purpose of our imaginative faculty. It's not to create stuff.
Yeah.
It's not, because everything that's going to be created is already created. We have to get into the frequency to somehow come into perception of it. That's really what we're trying to do here, is trying to alter our frequency. So because we're on a frequency that thing that we're trying to perceive is on, that's how we'll perceive it. People call it achieve it, right? It's the perception of it. And because this is a vibrational reality, it is all about shifting your vibration. So how do you know what your vibration is? Pay attention to how you feel.
Right.
Luckily, we have a time-space buffer. So every time you feel like crap, you're not always going to manifest crap. Right. There is a time-space buffer. But you know, I think that is the biggest misconception about visualization. And I didn't learn that until after I spent 20 grand to work with some guy who was talking about, like, you can see, you can be. It was all about Napoleon Hill and all that other old school thought.
The little, you know, again, I'm very new to all this. So, but the little bit that I've learned is, I've heard both what you're saying, and like what feels better to me, again, in my body, is this concept of, yes, like kind of bringing your vibration to the vibration of the thing that you want. And there's nothing wrong with saying, putting it out there and saying, this is the thing that I want, but then not holding on tightly, not like gripping with all of your might to this particular thing that looks exactly this way. It's more about, like, I feel that this is something that I really want in my life. Some form of abundance. And like you said, there's many more. We should do a whole show on abundance, honestly, because there's much more abundance than just material, you know, money.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a job, or maybe it's a partner, or maybe it's more love in your life, or maybe it's just feeling more peaceful in your soul during the day. Like, there's many, many things out there that you could want to bring into your life. Putting it out there, going to the energy of that thing, but then kind of surrendering and having faith, which is, I think, is what you're talking about, to like the will of the universe. Like, this or something vibrationally equivalent, adjacent, will come to me through this process. And I'm not going to like only laser focus on that one particular thing and feel like a failure if that particular thing doesn't come into my life, or like it didn't work, or like, I don't know, all of these kind of negative feelings. It's more of a faith-based experience.
It's trust. Yeah. And I think exactly what you're talking about. If something works for you as a person, as a listener, if putting some particular stamp on it, a label, if it truly makes you feel expansive and excited, then do it. Like, I'm not for one methodology or another methodology. What I'm saying is that if it makes you feel authentically good, because there's a difference between anxiety and excitement, and you know the difference. And a lot of people try to, convince themselves, oh, I'm actually excited, when they're scared out of their mind and anxious and fearful. Everything is a permission slip, every single thing. So if it works for you, authentically gets you excited, and excited as an expanded state of energy instead of a contracted state. Use it until it doesn't work for you anymore, and then use something else.
Yeah. And learning the difference in your body between what feels like expansion and what feels like contraction is a it's a learning point, because sometimes something is expansive, but it's also making you feel anxious and nervous because you're really excited about it and you want to do it, but yet you're scared to do it. But it is the expansive thing. And then trying to tease that out versus this is just straight up giving me anxiety. I just should not do this thing. And a lot of people that I coach come in and say, I've had this thought over and over that I want to do this thing, whatever it may be, but I just never do it. I just never do it. And ultimately, it comes down to a lot of the time that they're just afraid to do it. They're afraid to be seen. They're afraid they'll fail. They're afraid that people will say unkind things. They're afraid they won't be good enough. They have all of these fears around it. And it doesn't mean that it's not actually something that they really want and actually really does feel expansive underneath the fear and the anxiety, but the fear and the anxiety are stopping them from getting to the expansive part.
Yeah.
So
when I talk about intuition with people, and when I talk about how, because in my book, it's all based on questions that people asked about intuition. How do I tell the difference between, my fears and intuition? There's a bunch of questions in there that I answered. But if you understand how fast our psyche and our belief systems work, you then can begin to dissect if something is truly an intuitive idea that you're excited about. Also know that if you felt that slight, even modicum of excitement, but then on the heels of it, it was blended so seamlessly with a fear, you can begin to separate out the two. What would I need to believe is true about myself to feel the way I do about this situation? Okay, I really want to be whatever, a famous author, but I don't feel like, so once you begin to separate it out, then you can go, oh, I actually really am excited about that. And it's not just an idea that someone told me I should have. It's really something that I would like to experience. But I hooked that train right to a negative belief. And it happened so fast, I got muddled up and I couldn't tell the difference. But guess what? Even just starting to have that conversation, the next time it happens, you're going to be like, oh, wait. That's something I'm actually excited about, but look what happened.
Yeah.
I just hooked a negative belief to it because I still don't feel worthy. I mean, I did that 4 years and I still do that.
100%. Yeah. I literally was just in a meditation a week ago, and it was a guided meditation, and it was asking something about what I wanted, or having me visualize something I wanted or something like that. And then it said, do you believe that you can really have it? And immediately, no came into my mind. I mean, it was like a lightning bolt. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was there, because if you would have asked me in just an everyday conversation, I've been like, yeah, 100%, I believe I can do that. And then my subconscious was like, nope. And I was,
nope.
Oh, okay. Well, got to do some work around that. So for me, it takes getting quiet. I really need to get quiet in order to hear really what's going on. And I am a huge fan of meditation and yoga. I mean, those have been so beneficial to me in my life for helping me to really dissect what's going on underneath the noise of life and underneath all of the I mean, I was, everybody's different. I kind of wish that I was a rebel growing up. I wasn't. I was a really rule follower, listen to my parents, good girl. I made parenting really easy for my parents, but I think that it took me a long time to then say, No, actually, no, that's not what I really want. And actually,
Hmm.
there is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. There is only what is right or wrong for me, or what
Hmm.
works or doesn't work for me. Um,
Yeah.
and that is something that I think a lot of women in particular really, really suffer from, this
Hmm.
good girl mentality, this pleaser mentality. And we can't get to our authentic selves if we're living there.
Hmm. I think too, a lot of times, and I didn't realize this until later, it's almost like you're meant to feel shameful if you have limiting beliefs, because there's so much of the personal development industry, so much money is spent on, you got to change your limit. If you're going to be successful, you got to change your limiting beliefs. Like you have to change this aspect of you. And so there's almost a shame and a desire to put forth a fearlessness. Like how many books have you, like, look, if you just look out on Amazon, so many books are talking about being fearless.
Mhm.
You can't actually be fearless and live a physical experience.
Right,
So let's
right.
stop making people think they have to get rid of that part of themselves in order to be fulfilled and
Yes.
living a really fun, exciting, interesting life. You
Yeah.
do not need to get rid of your depression and your anxiety, and it doesn't have to go away completely. Now, do you want to
Yeah.
live there forever? No, probably
Right.
not.
Right.
But
Mhm.
you're not a you don't need to get rid of all your limiting beliefs, because when you do, it'll be when you die. That's
Right.
when it's going to happen. So
Yes.
unless you're ready to die right today, let's just
Right.
understand they're actually helping us. They are shining a light on something that we need to examine in further detail. Why? Because it's probably one of our soul themes.
Yeah. And we really can't examine them until we're ready to examine them. Like I
Oh
joke
yeah.
and say I wish I would have been more of a rebel and all that jazz, but like I wasn't ready. I wasn't
Mm-mm.
ready to be seen. I wasn't ready to go against the current. I wasn't ready to not feel accepted and liked and all of those things. And trust me, that's not all gone, and fear is not all gone, but I'm certainly in a different place than I was 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And no, fear doesn't go away. In fact, the more I feel like I move towards who I really am, actually, the more the fear kind of ramps up. Um,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I recognize it and I feel it, but there's a difference in like, again, coming back to that, like, is this fear that's attached to something I actually really want as expansive, or is this
Mm-hmm.
just like straight up anxiety for who knows what reason, or something I really don't want to do? But really, the closer I get to being really who I feel like I came here to be on a consistent basis, the more that fear kind of pops up, and I have to be, pet it and tell it to
Yes.
settle down.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you'll know when the fear is diminishing, or when you've kind of hit this point in the fulcrum where you've tipped. When you have an experience and it's a different relationship, because I've written like 3 books. And so the last one I wrote, it was submitted to a bunch of different, it won like 5 awards and stuff. And one of the not testimonials, the can't think of the
Oh,
word where
what I
people,
know what you're talking about.
like a
When they
review
on
of
the
it.
jacket, where they write the reviews and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it was the person didn't know me. It was just they had read my book, and it was part of the Eric Hoffer Foundation review. And they used words, and it was so interesting because they used words like worthy. And I was like, oh, I have never had a relationship like I have in this exact moment. I felt worthy. I
Mm,
felt it. I didn't go, oh,
yeah,
no, 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 that can't be
yeah,
me. And I was like, oh, so this is what it's like to tip the fulcrum. This is what it's
yeah,
like to swing in the other direction with
yeah,
the sense of worthiness in relation to this topic.
yeah.
Right. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So
Okay,
it'll come for you when it comes for you. You will have the
right.
experience when you're ready to see it. But until then, we just keep working on these things
Yeah,
until we can look at it and shift our resonance and shift our point of view and feel that we relate differently
mhm.
to the topic as it relates to us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. And you can't force it. You just
No.
can't force it. You can, keep doing the inner work, like kind of doing, doing what you need to do to keep moving forward, but it is going to come when it's going to come. It is similar to, and I'm sure everybody's had this experience in your life where someone says something and you have like an aha moment, a light bulb goes off for you, but then you think about it more and you're like, actually, I've heard like 20 other people say that exact same thing. And it didn't light me up. I didn't hear it. It didn't sink in. It didn't like hit me. Because I wasn't ready. It wasn't about that other person and how they said it or how they presented it to me. It was because I wasn't ready.
Yeah. And honestly, being a parent, you see this in your kids all the time. Like,
all the time.
I've said this to you for 10 years. And they're like, oh my God, my therapist said, I'm like, I've been saying that like verbatim, that thing to you for 10 years.
Yeah.
And now it hits you.
It's so true. My husband does this all the time. He has a close friend and I will say something to him and then he kind of dismisses it, whatever. He's not really, taking a whole lot of stock in it. Then his friend says the exact same thing and he comes home and he goes, guess what my friend said? And I'm like, really?
Inner peace.
Deep breath. I'm going to go meditate now.
Yes. So in that same regard, we have the parent universe is going to say something 20,000 times and we're not going to hear it until we're ready.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so true. It's so true. And there's no rush, right? We'll be ready when we're ready. And this is the journey. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, Allison. I'm so grateful you decided to come on. I'm going to put all your books in the show notes. I'm going to start reading your books because they sound fascinating. And you're so like, yeah, I read this book and I got 5 awards or whatever. You're so nonchalant about it. Did you always plan to be a writer, or was that something
God, no. I was like, I talk about it again in the book. My adolescence was pretty tumultuous. I had not a great relationship with academics. I never thought of myself as a reader, a writer. Like I had to work at this, talk about shifting paradigms. Like it's been a road to get to a place where I feel confident in my authentic voice and how it's coming through. And I'm happy. And of course I care what people think. I want them to like it, but I'm not hanging my hat so much on it anymore. It's not going to, my day is not going to be ruined if you don't like my book. It's okay. Just pick another one. There's plenty of them out there.
Right. Yeah. And that is really, what you're talking about is something that happens, I think, when you are solidly in your authentic self. It's like, I really do want you to like me and I do want you to like my book, or I do want you to like my teachings or whatever it is. But if you don't, I still like me and I still like my book and I still like my teachings and I'm okay with it. We each have our own journey and that's okay that you're not on the same path as me. So it's beautiful. Fantastic. All right. Well, I'll put all your information in the show notes. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to touch on before we end this call?
No, not at all. Okay. Just continue with the journey. Like it really is so interesting and fascinating. And if you could just, appreciate your own path, like that's freedom.
Yeah. It really is interesting. I will tell you that. And when the curveballs come, that's what I try to tell myself. I'm like, let's just see how interesting that this can get and not try to, because life can throw you a lot of stuff that can be really challenging. And so I think if we look at it the way you're talking about, looking at it like you're on the screen and you're looking up at it and everything has a good and a bad and something to learn from it, then we can take life a little less seriously and we can live on that playground a little bit more and we can, bring more things into our life that we prefer.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I loved Allison's little formula that she gave us to move towards your purpose or to move towards a life that feels aligned to who you are. And that was follow your excitement as far and as long as you can. Don't make assumptions or demands that it be something that it's not, and stay in a positive mindset. So that would be my invitation to you for this week, is to try out Allison's formula. following your excitement as far as you can is something in my workbook that I mentioned. It's something that I know I've done other podcast episodes about. I call it the path of fascination. I got that from Martha Beck. That's not mine. But she calls it following the path of fascination. So anything that you just feel innately excited about, drawn to, curious about, it doesn't matter whether it makes sense or if it's going to make money at some point, or if other people understand why, or even if you understand why. If you get that pull and that internal excitement and that feeling of expansion, which, like I mentioned, I will link that episode so you know what it feels like, an expansive feeling feels like, then do it. Go for it and take it as far and as long as you can. And then don't make assumptions or demands that it be something it's not, right? So sometimes we do get pulled towards something and we're excited about it and it's genuine and it's expansive, but we have a vision of what it is in our minds. We have this idea of what this experience is going to be like. And then when we get into the reality of the experience, if it's not what we envisioned, then our ego starts setting in and we start having judgments about it, judgments about the experience. And sometimes just by being thrown off guard that this experience is not what we thought it was going to be, we start judging it, we judge it negatively, and we think, oh, I guess this is not meant for me. Like I thought it was meant for me, but I guess it's not. But that's really because we are trying to demand the experience be something it's not, instead of being deeply in the present moment and allowing it to be what it is. So if you have that experience, if you think you're excited about something, you go towards it, and then it's different than what you expected, I would encourage you to take a breath, take a moment, and consciously decide to drop your expectations and your assumptions about it and to experience it for just what it is. And then to later decide if it is something that is for you, right? Because we can think we're excited about something, do it, and then say, no, actually, this wasn't for me. And that can be absolutely a true experience. But we just want to make sure that we're not limiting ourselves because we have certain ideas and this experience is not living up to those ideas in our head, when if we could release those and surrender to what it is, we could actually truly experience it, enjoy it, and maybe even realize that we enjoy it more than we would have if we had experienced it in the way that we thought we were going to. So move towards what moves you, follow that path of fascination, drop all the assumptions and judgments and just allow it to be what it is, and then stay in a positive mindset. And that last one comes along, I think, with, dropping those assumptions. We tend to dip into those more lower vibration thought patterns and feelings when we are placing judgment on something and when we are resisting what is. So if you can allow it to be what it is, you will more naturally stay in that positive mindset. And as Allison mentioned, you don't have to do this. This doesn't have to be on big monumental decisions that you need to make in your life, right? Like changing careers or finding your soul's purpose in a week, right? It can be as small as, what do you want to make for dinner? What do you want to do that would be enjoyable to you this week? Something that would just be fun and playful and something that you just desire, right? It could be what movie you see, or it could be who you're hanging out with this week. It could be a place you want to go on vacation, right? So anything that keeps you, as she mentioned, in alignment with yourself and moves you closer to yourself will help to create a life that looks and feels like you, right? So this is a practice. So that is what I encourage you to do this week. Play with that, have fun with it. As I mentioned, that's how I ended up here. I mean, if you haven't listened to my other episodes, if you haven't been listening for a long time, you may not know this, but the path of fascination is what landed me here, hosting this show, coaching, teaching yoga, writing, speaking. Everything that I do is simply a byproduct of following my path of fascination. Without knowing where it was going to go or how it was going to end. I still don't know, right? To this day, I am still growing and changing and evolving, and I have certain ideas and desires about things I want to bring into my life. And I don't know how they're going to show up, or if they're going to show up, if they're going to show up in a different way than I anticipate. But I just continue time after time after time to follow that path of fascination with an open heart and an open mind. And as Allison mentioned, with faith in the fact that if I do that, if I follow what calls me, that I will land where I am meant to land. And so, a heavy dose of faith and surrender is required in this process. And so I encourage you to tap into that as well and see how much you're trying to control, and how much faith you have that if you do this, you will create an authentic life to you that feels good, that feels really, really good. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your week. As I mentioned earlier, please like and subscribe the show, share it to anyone who you think could benefit from it, rate, review it, do all the things for me. If you can, I would be so grateful to help me to grow this show. All right, have a wonderful weekend, my friends. Hi, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, I ask that you please like the show, follow, subscribe, or share. The way that podcasts work is the more people that do one of those things, the more likely it is that when someone's looking for a podcast to listen to, our show will pop up for them. I started this podcast because I really see there's a great need in our world for people to feel more peace, joy, love, and acceptance in their lives. And I think we can do that when we have a greater sense of self-awareness. We could become conscious creators of our own lives. And I'm seeking to do that for as many people as possible. So if you could help me by liking, sharing, or subscribing to the show, I'd really appreciate it. And hopefully someone hears a conversation that changes their life. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Much love.